Hey, what's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist, and today I'm going to be doing a new deck profile. Now this is a really fun deck. This is Invoked Magical Musketeers. Now this is a really awesome deck. Actually was flipping through one of my binders, and I have a bunch of the Invoked engines from when I opened up my Shadows and Valhalla boxes. And I was flipping through there and I was like, man, I really wish there was something I could do with all these. Because I know you can build Invoked Back Knights, and I know you can do Invoked Blue Eyes, but what else can you do with them? What's something crazy that you can do with them? And I started looking at all the different, decks that I had that were, for instance, light decks, and I started looking at Magical Musketeer, and I was like, man, I could summon out, Caspar, and then activate, what's his name? Invocation, and then summon Makaba, and then get the effect of Caspar off and Makaba. And I was like, okay, let's do that. So I built this deck. So anyways, guys, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and let's get straight on into this. So we're going to be playing 3 copies of Magical Musketeer Caspar, and this deck is going to be really busted, by the way, when Magical Musketeer Max comes out. It's going to be great. So this effect, all the Magical Musketeers, if you guys aren't familiar with it, is if you activate a magic or trap card that is in their column, meaning directly under them, they get particular effects. So for instance, Caspar's effect is that you get to add another magical musket card from your deck to your hand. Then we play 3 copies of Magical Musketeer Kid Brave. Kid Brave's effect is that if you activate a card in his column, you get to discard a Magical Musketeer card and then draw 2 cards, which is really cool. I really love these cards because they're actually based off of a German opera, and they're also based off of different Wild West people. Like, for instance, Kid Brave is based off of Billy the Kid. And they kind of tie in with my Red Dead obsession as well. I've been playing the crap out of Red Dead Redemption 2. So then I play 2 copies of Magical Musketeer Doc, which is based off Doc Holliday, which is really cool because he's one of my favorite Wild West guys. But his effect is that if you activate a card under him, you get to add a Magical Musketeer card or a Magical Musket card directly from your graveyard to your hand, which is really cool. And we do play Ties of the Brethren in this build, so you can still get off the playing 3 of them all at once, which is Caspar, Doc, and you get to summon off Kid Brave as well, which is really cool. For the level 4s, we're going to be playing 2 copies, only 2 copies now, of our Magical Musketeer Starfire. I only play the 2 Starfires now because her effect is that when she's on the field and you activate a card under her, you get to special summon a level 4 or lower Magical Musketeer directly from your deck, which is pretty cool. She gets to search and special summon anyone that you want, but she can kind of clog at playing at more than 2. I liked her at 3, but with all the normal summons I have now with Alistair and all that, 2 is plenty. For the next one that we play, we actually play 1 copy of Magical Musketeer Wild, which is based off of Wild Bill, which is really cool. His effect is that when he's on the field, he's kind of like Pot of Avarice. If you activate a card under him, you can actually shuffle back 3 Magical Musket cards from your graveyard into your deck and then draw a card. Then I play 1 copy of Magical Musketeer Calamity. She is my favorite one artwork-wise, but she's not the best. Early game, she's kind of bad because her effect is if you activate a card under her, you can target a Magical Musket monster in your graveyard and special summon it. Really good card, not that great early game. So we only play 1 copy of her. Then for the last 3 monsters, I play 3 copies of Alistair the Invoker. Now, the reason we play 3 copies of him is because of the Invoked engine. You need to play 3 copies of him because when he's normal summoned, during either player's turn, you can send him from your hand to the grave and then target a fusion monster, and it gains 1,000 attack. And if this card is normal summoned, or flip face up, you can add an invocation directly from your deck to your hand, which is really important for this deck in this particular build, because it's like having a secondary engine in the deck to be able to search and summon a really big boss monster, because that's something that this deck kind of struggles with, is not being able to summon a boss monster. And summoning Alistair and summoning Makaba can really devastate our opponent. So that's it for the monsters, guys. Let's get into the spells. This deck is super fun, by the way. You guys should totally check it out and build it. I know you're already checking it out, but you should totally build it. So 3 copies of Invocation, Diffusion, Summon into Makaba, and all of our other one like Purgatorio and all those. Really good card. Basically just the fusion spell of the deck. 3 copies of Magical Meltdown. Magical Meltdown, when it's activated, you can add an Alistair from your deck to your hand, which is really cool. The really neat thing about this particular deck is that when you play it, it's like, how do I put this? Every single one of the Invoke cards, they search one another, which is really awesome, and I really love that about the Invoked cards. Like, for instance, if I activate like Alistair, he searches Invocation. Or if I activate, it kind of goes in like down this chain. You activate Meltdown, it searches Alistair. You normal summon Alistair, it searches Invocation. Invocation, when it's in your graveyard, you can banish one. If this card is in your graveyard, you can target one of your banished Alistair, the Invoker, shuffle it into the deck, and you add it to your hand. So it just keeps rolling and rolling over and over again, and it's extremely easy to keep pulling off your summons. Then I play 1 copy of Book of Law. I use this just to kind of go into different plays with my invoked monsters. So it's just a really good card to be able to just like switch them out and tag them in and out. Then I play 3 copies of Called by the Grave, just to stop my opponent from hand trapping me. I don't want to be hand trapped in this deck, so I just play 3 of it. I play 1 copy of Steady Hands. Steady Hands just kind of doubles the attack of my Magical Musketeer monster. 3 copies of Cross Domination. Cross Domination is the best spell in the deck besides Invocation. It negates the effect of a monster on the field and then reduces its attack to 0. And that's just absolutely good in this deck. It's just the best spell card in the deck. 3 copies of Double Summon, because you can actually pull it off really easily where you like normal summon Caspar and then activate Double Summon and then summon the Alistair from your hand, search the Invocation from your deck, activate it, fusion summon it within the monster in your opponent's graveyard, get a search off of the Caspar, and then look at your opponent and go, I just went +2. What's up? Really good card. Really, really good card. To play in this deck. And then 3 copies of Ties of the Brethren. The reason I play 3 Ties of the Brethren is because, like I said before, if you have Kid Brave, you can summon, if you have any of these on your field or in your hand, and you activate it, targeting one of them, you're going to get the other 2 directly into your field because you activated under one. And then you're going to get their effects off too, which is really, really important. So that's it for the spells, guys. Let's get into the traps. We do play 5 traps in the deck as well. So for the 5 traps, we're going to be playing 3 copies of Desperado and 2 copies of Last Stand. Desperado is really good, and I search it all the time in this deck. But Desperado's effect is that you can activate it if you control a Magical Musketeer monster. The cool thing is like you can activate your traps directly from your hand if you control a Magical Musketeer. That's really, really cool about them. Like if you have, like, for instance, if I have Caspar on the field, he specifically says I can activate Magical Musketeer cards from my hand, like Magical Musketeer spells and traps from my hand. So then I activate, Desperado, pop a card on my opponent's field, and then I don't have to set it, which is really, really nice. And then 3 copies of Last Stand. Last Stand's effect, or 2 copies of Last Stand. Last Stand's effect is when your opponent activates a spell or trap while you control a Magical Musketeer monster. Negate the activation if you do destroy it. Which is really good to be able to negate spells and traps, because a lot of combo pieces in opponent's decks are spell cards. So it's really important to be able to do this. And if your opponent like has Altergeist, you can activate this and negate their traps. So that's it for the main deck, guys. Let's get into the extra deck. The extra deck is pretty self-explanatory. A lot of Invoked. So we're playing 2 copies of Makaba. Makaba is the one that I go for the most. Basically, it's just the boss of the deck. If your opponent activates a card or effect that are monster, spell, or trap effect, you can quick effect send the same type of card from your hand to the grave, negate the activation, to banish it. 1 copy of Elysium. Elysium is really good in the deck, and I summon it quite often. It's usually my later game effect, but once per turn, during either player's turn, you can target 1 invoked monster you control, or 1 card in your grave, banish it, and all monsters your opponent controls with the same attribute as that monster. The cool thing is you can actually banish Elysium, which is really cool. And it counts as a dark, earth, water, fire, and wind monster while it's on the field, and it counts as a light monster as well. So it's a really good card to be able to banish and do all that good stuff with. 1 copy of Invoked one copy of the Water Invoked. Basically can attack when it's in defense position, and this card is really good against Sky Strikers. Like, you just put it in defense mode, and it's like, okay, it cannot be destroyed by your opponent's card effects, and your opponent cannot target this card with card effects, so it's untargetable, and they target all the time. So you just make this and attack your opponent with this for 1800 and peck them to death with this. One copy of Ragin. I don't summon this all the time. Like, I really don't. But it just is a Book of Moon. One copy of Purgatrio. Purgatrio is the big boss of the deck. I summon this all the time. When you summon this, and pretty much all it does is, you know, you win. It can attack all monsters your opponent controls, and it gains 200 attack for each card your opponent, or each monster your opponent controls, and it does piercing damage. So it can get really big, really fast. The max it can get up to, if your opponent has 6 cards on the field, is 1200 more, so it goes up to 35, which is still pretty big, and then you can discard Alistairs to make it gain 1000 more, so it can get up really big and be able to do piercing. One copy of Alistair, the Invoker of Madness. You just play this because it's an Invoked deck, pretty much. One copy of Boral Sword, and one copy of Boral Load. I make these very seldomly, but they're here. One copy of Unicorn. Ties of the Brethren, next turn, make this. Bounce something is a powerful play. Phoenix, you just pop spells. Cerberus, you pop monsters. Hippo Shinnigan, I play sometimes. This plus Makuba is interesting because it makes Makuba go to 3000. Exciton Knight and Breaksword. I just threw these in here because I make 3s and 4s sometimes, and these are the best 3s and 4s in the game, in my opinion. So that's it for the deck, guys. I hope you enjoyed this deck profile. It's a really, really fun deck, like I said. It's just something innovative that I wanted to do that I haven't seen anybody else play. Invoked Magical Musketeers, so you saw it first here. So anyways, guys, this is DarkArmedDuelist. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit that bell, and there's some a part of the notification squad. And if you are a part of the notification squad, definitely do it so I can give you guys a heart. So I'll see you guys in the next video. See you around, guys.